Welcome back to another Bulldog Blitz summer edition. We're finally back. Feels good to be back after a summer hiatus. And we really could not have picked a better time to return here. So much stuff going on in both basketball and hockey. The NBA and NHL finals have now wrapped up. Same with other sports. And we're here to recap it all. We're going to start with breaking down the NBA and NHL finals. We'll talk about the drafts in each and then finish it off with some of the free agency moves, which are now underway. So we'll start in chronological order with the NBA and the Boston Celtics, who have won their 18th NBA championship to have the most out of any franchise in NBA history, eclipsing the Los Angeles Lakers with 17. And I mean, it was really a breeze through the East.
Mm-hmm.
Western Conference were beating themselves up, had the Thunder, the T-Wolves, the Nuggets, the Mavs coming out on top, going at it. And then here you got the Celtics, who really only lost 3 games in their whole playoff run. They went 64-18 in the regular season, being the best NBA team by far in that run. And it really all came down to the Celtics versus Mavericks.
Yeah, and I honestly thought it could have been a good series after that game 4. You know, Mavericks came back, put up big numbers in that game. I thought maybe spark a comeback, maybe would force game 6, but shut right down. Celtics really, they just dominated these playoffs.
It really did have me considering, could it be like the Panthers-Oilers situation where could really have a big comeback there, but not at all.
No.
What really happened, my big takeaway here is that the Celtics win without a top 5 superstar.
Yeah.
They just had the best overall roster and the best overall depth in the league, which really carried them through. The Mavs team were led by, the super duo in Luke and Kyrie, but it was really the role players that outperformed the Mavs role players here, and it showed. Yeah, Drew Holiday with 26 points in game 2, huge performance there, along with some huge defensive plays throughout their whole playoff run, including one big steal against the Pacers. You had Peyton Pritchard knocking down half-court buzzer beaters in Game 2 and Game 5. And then Porzingis, who came back from injury, not coming back, playing for the first time since April 29th. And he scored 20 points in that first game, really set the tone. And then finally, you had Derek White, who I think was probably the best. I don't even know if you can call him a role player because he was in all-star contention, but he averaged 14 points per game in the finals, 16.7 in the postseason, and he broke his teeth while at it in Game 5.
Yeah. But I mean, on the opposite hand, the Mavs role players couldn't do anything. They kind of lost it. They ended up costing it for Luka and Kyrie. Luka went out in Game 3.
Bad defensive performance there.
Yeah.
But I mean, overall, I'd say he played pretty well offensively.
Yeah. He went out and no one stepped up.
Mm-hmm.
No one could get the ball moving. No one could get up. PJ Washington, probably the 3rd best player on Dallas. He averaged 10.8 points per game and 1.4 assists, which is not great if you're calling a top 3 guy on your team.
Not great by all measures of it, but doesn't even hold a candle to some of the worst performances, such as Tim Hardaway Jr., who didn't even make his first bucket until Game 4. And then you had Derek Lively, who was a great draft pickup, traded from the Thunder. Great series versus the Thunder. And then the T-Wolves had me thinking that he would be maybe an X factor in that final series, but he only had 5.6 points per game as an average. And only had 2 games that whole series where he had more than 2 points. So
yeah, but then again, a positive we'll take out of the Mavs is Luka really showed why he's one of the most feared guys in the NBA. He proved that even with these role players that aren't playing their role, he's still going to get his job done. 29.2 points per game throughout the series, 47.2 from the field goal, and 24.4 from the 3-point. I mean, those are great stats to put up.
Yeah, I mean, I think he cemented his spot as a top 5 player in the league.
Easily.
I think it's inevitable that he probably will win an NBA championship one day. Maybe not Kyrie, he's getting a little old, but Luka still has time. He's going to be one of the league's biggest superstars, one of the faces of the league when LeBron retires for sure, and he's bound to get himself a ring. And then looking over at Kyrie, abysmal start to the finals in games 1 and 2. Eventually turned it around, but unfortunately it was too little too late. Couldn't shoot above 40% from the field in the first 2 games. Didn't make a single 3-point shot until Game 3, where he kind of carried as opposed to Luka. And then 12 points Game 1, 16 points Game 2, 19.8 points per game the whole series. You really do want to see your superstar averaging above 20.
Yeah, which obviously you can get done, and it costs them a lot when their players can't step up in the big moments like the NBA Finals.
For sure. But now let's talk about Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, surprised that Jaylen Brown won the MVP, as Tatum's stats were really better in almost every situation. Tatum was averaging 22.2 points per game, 7.8 rebounds per game, and 7.2 assists per game compared to Jaylen Brown, which he had 20.8, 5.4, and 5.0, which, he did it, but
All right.
didn't get the MVP.
We did it. No, actually, I kind of want to have this conversation with you because I got to disagree here. I got to say, I think Tatum, while the stats may show you one thing, there's a saying about bras, what they say is interesting, but also what they don't show you is equally as interesting.
Yeah.
And I think Jaylen Brown, just from the eye test, was definitely the more appealing player this whole series. And I think Tatum kind of stat padded, especially in games 3 and 5. He had 31 points in each. Game 5, Mavs weren't even trying anymore towards the second half. Third and fourth quarter, they knew it was over. And besides that, in the games where it really came down to it, I think Jaylen Brown had the bigger impact. So I think talking about Tatum's legacy from this point on, critics will say he still hasn't proved himself to be one of the upper echelon of the NBA players yet. He's not in that conversation with, say, like Shea, Jokic, Luka. I don't think he's in my top 5 personally. I think he still has to maybe, looking at it from the team perspective, Celtics are in a dynasty right now. Yeah. They probably will make many more finals appearances. He's got to win a finals MVP in some of those, I think, in the future, or maybe just have a better regular season performance for MVP conversation, because currently he's not in my top 5.
All right. I respect that. That's a good take. I mean, Tatum, you could say stat padded. Obviously Jaylen Brown had a great series, great playoff.
Yeah.
I mean, he was phenomenal for the Celtics, which why they cruised through the playoffs with Tatum and Jaylen Brown both playing, doing their parts. And then when they had their role players stepping up, they stepped up big time. So you say Tatum's on your top 5. Personally, I don't know if I could give a top 5, but what's your top 5 looking like?
My top 5, I got to go Jokic and Luka, the 2 internationals. Got to go them 1 and 2. I mean, then the rest would be in no order, but I think I put Shea in there in the mix right now.
Yeah.
I think he was number 2 in MVP voting this year, so you can't leave him out. I'd go Shea, and then I'd go Giannis, and then even though his knees don't work, I'm going to go Embiid.
Yeah.
And that leaves Tatum out, that leaves Ant Edwards out, Halliburton, Brunson. I think they're still on the come up. They're still very
young. No, these are very young players you're talking about, and they could easily move their way up. And I don't know about your top 5, but easily into my top 5.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that Embiid and Giannis, they have age experience over these guys, but Ant for sure, I could definitely see him moving in there, maybe even by next year.
Yeah, easily. So let's move on here to some other NBA news. JJ Redick, younger than his star player LeBron James, the new head coach for the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah, great friends, fellow podcaster like us, with LeBron from their Mind the Game podcast. No actual coaching experience. No. Only coaching experience was that he was the assistant 4th grade coach for his son's team.
Yeah.
So not exactly what you want, making that jump from that to then the head coach of Los Angeles Lakers, a $1 billion organization. But he is a great tactician and analyst of the game, known as being a good pundit, good sportscaster, commentator. But for me personally, I just don't see this working out. He has to deal with an aging LeBron who has more power than him in the organization.
Yeah.
And Bronny now as well. Probably reason why Dan Hurley rejected the offer at first as well.
Yeah, and clearly that's true. I mean, LeBron, it was an obvious situation that wherever Bronny went, LeBron was going to go. He did announce that wasn't true, but no one was going to draft Bronny unless they were getting LeBron.
Yes.
And, I mean, JJ Redick, clearly heavily influenced by former teammate LeBron, had to draft Bronny.
Yeah, caught in the crossfire there. I really don't think it was his decision anyway.
No.
He probably would have had it some other way, but it was LeBron's pick. And unfortunately for head coaches now, your star players take more precedent over you in the eyes of the organization. It probably goes them. General manager probably has more power than you.
Yeah.
So just tough situation for him, but that's just the modern NBA.
Yeah, exactly. And when you want to, as a head coach, you want to build up with your younger guys, but as everyone knows, Bronny's not ready for the NBA.
Yeah.
He's not someone that you could build up and become a high prospect. I mean, then again, he was a later mid-second round pick. I mean, you may not get what you want out of that pick, but drafting Bronny in your first year as a head coach job, you're not really going to build a prospect with him.
Yeah, it's criminal. I don't think he'll see the court at all. No. You really should have stayed in college another year. I know other teams, Rich Paul, his agent, said if the Suns or the Lakers don't draft him and someone else does, he's going to go to Australia. But his teammate, Boogie Ellis at USC, outperformed him in almost every aspect.
Yeah.
And he went undrafted. And it's really just because his last name is James. It's why. Hopefully he can develop. I'm rooting for him, but it's just a sad product of nepotism.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
It's a terrible story for people that went undrafted.
Yeah.
Just like his teammate. But now we'll change courses. We'll head over to the NHL.
Yeah.
So Oilers did come up short on the reverse sweep. That would have been a great, historic event to watch, as no one has done that since the 1942 Toronto Maple Leafs.
Wow.
Yeah, and talk about historic. The Oilers' success was based off of Connor McDavid. 8 goals, 42 points. He broke Wayne Gretzky's all-time record, single postseason record for assists. And everyone knows that breaking a Wayne Gretzky record is an insane stat to break.
I mean, probably deserving of the Conn Smythe Trophy in your opinion?
I would say so. I thought it was for sure going to be Sergei Bobrovsky, but that was until he fell apart.
Yeah.
I mean, he carried Florida through the playoffs. He was a massive role, if not the biggest role for Florida. But then he let go for 3 straight games. And if you want to be the playoff MVP, you got to be strong for the whole playoffs, just like McDavid was.
I do feel bad for McDavid, though, in that Game 7 where he lost and then he was forced to kind of come up on stage and accept this Conn Smythe Trophy.
Yeah.
Post-game interviews, he had to talk about it. It's a lose-lose situation for him.
Yeah.
Because if he declines it, he's going to be seen as a jerk that, whoa, you should have accepted this with honor. But then if you're over too ecstatic about it, you're seeing like, you just lost Game 7. This is the most crushing loss of your whole career. Why are you celebrating?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and you could see in his post-game interview, they asked him, well, how's it feel to get the Conn Smythe? He said, it's an honor. And then he went, yeah. I mean, he's not happy with the award. He doesn't want the single-person award. He wants the Stanley Cup, and it was quite obvious.
And I hope time is not running out for McDavid.
Yeah.
From a talent perspective, he is one of the NHL's greats already.
Yeah.
PK Subban believes in it. Many other analysts believe it as well. He's up there with Mario Lemieux, Wayne Gretzky, Mark Messier, all these people. But from a greatness perspective, like Michael Jordan, LeBron, he doesn't have any championships yet.
Yeah.
No Stanley Cups. And that's what's separating him now from that upper tier.
Yeah. But you could argue that he is still not in his early stages, but he's in more of the mid stages of his career. He does clearly have years to go. I mean, he put up 130-something points this year, which proves that he is not falling off anytime soon. But that also does, you have to factor in, does he have a team to take to a Stanley Cup like he did this year? This was a almost perfect setup for him to take a team, but they just couldn't cap it off.
Which is unfortunate because there's other young teams stepping up in the NHL right now as we speak. New York Rangers, Panthers, they're still somewhat of a young team.
Yeah.
Kachuk will be leading the league for years to come.
Uh-huh.
So hopefully time isn't running out and they can get back to the finals. But that would have been a really great win for Canada, and we still have not seen that yet. Yeah,
so another year where will we break the 40s with this record? We'll see. But speaking of the young guns, Evan Bouchard he also broke a record, broke the NHL all-time defenseman assist record in playoff history. He broke that early into the Stanley Cup Finals, but didn't really get to cap on more points as actually that duo, the McDavid Hyman duo. Yeah, that was kind of shut down towards mid to end of the playoffs, which McDavid actually put up 0 points in Game 6. That was the first time that was the 8th time in McDavid's whole career that he missed a game, and the Edmonton Oilers won.
Wow. Guess he is human.
Yeah.
Stuart Skinner as well. Great save percentage, .943 after the start of the third period of Game 3. So he really flipped the switch. It was almost as if Bobrovsky and Skinner switched abilities after Game 3.
I mean, Bobrovsky, no one saw the fall off from Bobrovsky, but I don't think anyone saw that come up from Stuart Skinner.
Yeah, completely.
I mean, he was a brick wall from Game 4 to 7. He was a massive factor keeping the Oilers into this series in the first place.
And then Oilers win 8-1.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of when everything changes. Mindset changes. You kind of start to lose confidence in yourself.
Yeah.
Oilers score 5 the next game.
Yeah.
Then 5 after that. So they really just started piling it on. And then Panthers win 2-1 to end it off. Paul Maurice, head coach, undefeated in any Game 7s. So that record still stays intact for him.
Yeah. I mean, you could see that no matter what happens in Game 7, it was if Florida wanted to win, it had to be a low-scoring game. Because it was becoming obvious the more you put in on Bobrovsky, the easier the next one would come.
Absolutely.
As it showed in 8-1 victory.
Yeah. And then let's head into the offseason now, or the draft rather, of the NHL. Big takeaway here is Macklin Celebrini.
Yeah.
Consensus #1 overall pick. One of the more generational picks, similar to Connor Bedard of last year's draft. Going to the San Jose Sharks. Unfortunately, it wasn't a great organization.
Yeah. I mean, sadly, not the Blackhawks. I mean, it would have been great to have back-to-back #1 overall picks, but it would have become obvious that
would have seemed too fishy.
that the lottery is rigged, which it most definitely is. But Blackhawks still got Artem Leshinov with the second pick. Everyone wanted, or most people wanted, Ivan Demidov. He's a guy out of the KHL out of Russia.
What'd you just say? How do you pronounce it?
Ivan Demidov.
Demidov? Okay.
Yeah, he's Russian, so it's going to be a difficult name.
Yeah.
But he is an offense machine that everyone wanted. But then again, in rebuild mode, you think strategically and go with Artem Leshinov out of Michigan State. He's a defenseman. He was on a second All-American team for the West Conference this year. Very strong defenseman. He was the consensus 2 or 3 pick. Whoever the Hawks didn't take was going with the next pick.
I like the way he looks, to be honest. He's got a bald head.
Yeah, receding hairline.
Kind of has some aura a little bit compared to Celebrini.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Celebrini's looking a little plump in the cheeks. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think Leshinov's a better-looking guy, in my opinion.
And then Bedard over all of them, too.
I mean, without a doubt. But we'll move on to some other draft picks from the Blackhawks. We got Sasha Boisvert. I don't know how to pronounce that. Out of Muskegon in the USHL, he put up 68 points in 61 games played. Muskegon had a pretty strong season in the USHL, but it was really heavily produced by Sasha Boisvert. He was 11th in the USHL for scoring, and he could be a very good upcoming prospect.
Is the USHL kind of like the minors almost for the NHL?
It's
like a
juniors.
side league kind of?
Yeah,
okay.
it's a junior league. It's the United States Hockey League. It's where, players from like 16, 17.
Sure.
They'll play
where they go
like
develop
18,
and all that?
19.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool
Lots of NHL players come out of there. Yeah, Boisvert, great goal scorer. He has an incredible shot, powerful wrister, great one-timer, and he's a great net front presence. And to cap that off, he's an incredible passer. He's a massive offensive threat for the Blackhawks, and we hope to see him produce in the future.
Hopefully. And then Beckett Sinek, I remember seeing that viral clip of him going to Anaheim because he was surprised he went so early. He went with the number 3 pick, supposed to go 11-14 range.
Yeah, he was shocked. Everyone in that room was shocked. No one thought he was going at number 3. And then again, they did pass up on Ivan Demidov, our Russian.
Who went to the Canadiens.
Yeah, that was the biggest pass up in the draft, without a doubt. People could argue it was Cole Eiserman going at 20 to Montreal. Cole Eiserman is probably one of the best offensive prospects in this draft class, if not the best. He broke incredible records this year at the USA development program.
Wow, okay.
But his one problem is he couldn't play defense. So he fell like 5 extra picks because he just can't play defense.
That's going to be crucial at the highest level for sure. That's
Exactly.
going to come back to bite him. So
we'll move on to a little bit of free agency here. We'll start with some big names. Steven Stamkos, after 16 seasons with Tampa Bay, he's going over to Nashville. He still had 81 points last year in his 16th season. He's on a 4-year, $8 million contract. And while I'm at it, we'll just keep going to Nashville. Nashville signs Elias Lindholm. He is a former 80-point player. Nashville's looking to win a cup this year.
Yeah, they went 47-30, finished 4th in the Central Division last year. They look like they're definitely on the rise. Mm-hmm. Stamkos, that's a surprising move for me. I thought he'd stay in Tampa his whole career. But
I did too.
I guess he's trying to win something before he ends. So.
Yeah, it's obvious he wants another one, and it's obvious Nashville does too. We weren't done with them. Jonathan Marchessault, Conn Smythe winner, the playoff MVP of the 2023 Stanley Cup playoffs. He was with Las Vegas. I thought he was going to stay in Vegas for as long as he could. He was one of their draft picks from their original seasons, but he's on to Nashville too. And along with Marchessault, they re-signed their star goaltender, probably a top 5 goaltender, UC Saros.
Wow, so they got some money to spend.
Yeah.
And then let's move to the Blackhawks where, familiar name, they re-signed Teuvo Teravainen. Now, I remember this guy around the 2015, 2013 seasons where they were building a dynasty. This guy was young.
Yeah.
Wasn't really producing yet. Goes away and starts doing well, and now he's coming back for $5.4 million, 3-year contract. 25 goals and 53 points last year. So I'm excited for him.
Yeah, and it's great. He's still on the not younger side, but younger old side. He's not getting old, but he's, not in the young parts of his career. He's more developed now. He could be an asset to play with Connor Bedard or with our, one of our 3 first-round draft picks we had this year.
Sure, kind of around like the Jason Tatum age a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Another addition for the Blackhawks is Tyler Bertuzzi. He is a scrappy player from the Leafs. He was at Boston before, and you could tell this guy's scrappy. He is losing half of his teeth.
Yeah. I mean, that's a true hockey player right there.
Yeah.
That's when you know they're good.
Yeah.
Just like we see the cauliflower ears on a UFC wrestler.
Yeah.
That's a good trait. You can tell right there.
Yeah.
So.
I think Chicago's going to love this guy. He brings back Andrew Shaw memories to me. Andrew Shaw was one of the scrappiest guys in Blackhawks history.
Shawsy.
And to get a guy like that back into Chicago, that'll bring some fans in.
And you know what? Let's stay in Chicago as we move to the NBA free agency, because it finally looks like Chicago's making moves this offseason.
I know. They made a trade.
First time in a long time.
We've made a trade.
So one of the first moves of this whole offseason was Alex Caruso unfortunately being traded to OKC. Unfortunately, our first move was a complete fleece.
Yeah.
So we got Josh Giddey in exchange. My biggest takeaway here is that we got no draft picks.
Yeah.
OKC has so many draft picks, you could probably just ask them for one and they'll give you one, but we somehow didn't come away with any. Only thing is that Josh Giddey is probably a little bit younger compared to Alex Caruso.
Yeah.
More of an offensive shooter. But Alex Caruso, second team All-NBA defensive team, and it's really sad to see him go.
Yeah. Caruso was the Bulls' best defender, and so far in their offseason, they have yet to bring in another defender like Caruso. So we'll see. Obviously, they have time to bring another guy in. But, I mean, Giddey does not bring much defense to the table.
Yeah.
But then again, he is low 20s. I believe he's 21 years old. I think Caruso has about 10 years on him, but Caruso does have a lot of skill on him.
Yeah. And then huge implications for OKC as they now have a backcourt of Caruso, Lou Dort, who might even just come off the bench, and then Chet Holmgren, who's 7'1", second in the league in blocks last year behind Wembanyama. So people are talking about the Knicks' future defense. I think the OKC might have the best defense in the league next year, and they'll be a problem for opposing offenses. They want to push for a title next season for sure.
Yeah. OKC is going to be a dangerous team to look out for this season.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
And then we'll stay with the Bulls, talk about Jalen Smith. That just happened yesterday. And I looked up his stats. He actually is kind of a steal.
Yeah. We didn't get him for too expensive, too. I believe it's 3 years, $27 million.
No, yeah.
It's 4 years, something like that.
Reminds me of Horace Grant with his goggles.
Oh, yeah.
Averaged 9.9 points with the Pacers last season. Did deal with some injury problems, but overall he's been really solid with his 3 years with the Pacers. Had 13.4 points per game in the 2021-22 season.
Yeah.
And then his field goal percentage was 59.2% last year, and then shot 42.4% from the three. So that guy actually looks like an offensive weapon. So I'm really excited for him.
Yeah, everyone's excited for this guy to see what he can pull to the offensive table. But then again, he doesn't bring much defense to the table or, a big man status to our table. Unless we're depending on Modest Bazulis to come in and be our big man this year.
Yeah, and more on that as we get to the draft in a second. Patrick Williams re-signed for a lot of money. Might be a little too much money in my opinion. I don't know
agree.
if he's really produced that much that would warrant that amount to be spent on him.
$90 million contract.
So we'll see what the Bulls do, but I'm just happy because it looks like they're finally willing to blow it all up.
Yeah.
Zach LaVine, they wanted to trade him yesterday to the Golden State Warriors,
But
who
that was
declined
rejected, yeah.
They wanted to trade him for CP3 and Wiggins. Warriors just ended up waiving CP3 and then declined that offer. So looks like LaVine will go, and then Paul George to the 76ers, which means that DeMar DeRozan might go to the Clippers.
Yeah, that'd
from
be
what
a
I'm
good
hearing.
fit. Yeah.
But then speaking of Paul George to the 76ers, this is huge for Philadelphia.
Yeah. The Bulls are having one of their biggest off seasons
In recent
history.
Yeah.
Or in our memory, in our Bulls memory that we have. This is a big off season for the Bulls. They're getting rid of their veterans like LaVine, like guys that we can remember playing for ever since I believe 2016, 17.
Yeah, I have about 2 or 3 jerseys of him alone.
Yeah. He's been a big part of our Bulls life, but I think it's time for him to let go. He's dealing with injuries. He's kind of fallen off, but it's also showing that not many teams want him.
Yeah, he'll be missed for sure, but we need to end this long run of mediocrity by the Bulls.
Yeah.
Just these 40-game win seasons where we're a fringe playoff tournament, in-season tournament team.
Yeah.
Each time, it's not good enough. We need to blow this whole thing up. And so, talking about Paul George to the 76ers, this is really good for them. They now have a big three of Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid, and him. If they can all stay healthy, which is probably pretty unlikely, Joel Embiid's knees are made of glass. Paul George, very injury-prone. But if they can stay healthy, they're probably a top 2 team in the East next to the Boston Celtics.
Yeah.
There's also Milwaukee in the mix who haven't really made any moves, and then the New York Knicks as well. But this is looking really good for them, especially because they just waived Tobias Harris, who's playing absolutely horrible, but he freed up some money for them in the cap space.
And if we talk about the Knicks, we'll talk about Mikal Bridges. That's a big move to the Knicks.
The Villanova Knicks now.
Yeah, Villanova.
Now have Josh Hart, Mikal, and Jalen Brunson all playing for the same team. Defensively, this is a great move. Mikal Bridges is known for playing a lot of games, stays very healthy. This would work great for Tom Thibodeau, who is known for playing his players a lot, not giving them a lot of rest. So we'll see if he can manage to stay fit. But they now have a backcourt of Mikal and then OG Anunoby, who they just re-signed as well.
Yeah.
So 2 great defensive adds. They'll be a defensive team to contend with in the East. And then moving on, let's go to DeJounte Murray, who just went to the Pelicans. Now, I have something to say here about this because Alex Sarr, there's some big controversy there in the draft, how he didn't want to go to the Hawks for some reason, but rather go to the Wizards. Very questionable move by some. Why would he do that? Well, DeJounte Murray and Trae Young together. By the way, the Hawks spent so many draft picks, spent so much time and effort drafting him, and then in the end, during his time in Atlanta, they had a losing record.
Yeah.
And now he just goes away to the Pelicans, and that's it. So I'm starting to understand where Sarr is coming from that angle.
Yeah, it's all kind of adding up here. But another big name, pretty good signing is CP3 to the Spurs.
I don't know if I like this one because talking about the draft again, the Spurs drafted Rob Dillingham and then traded him to the T-Wolves.
Yeah.
I think I'd rather have Dillingham and Wembanyama together than aging CP3.
I do agree. That could be when that draft pick was announced, everyone thought that could be a dangerous future duo.
Yeah.
But now that's out the window in the same day that he was drafted.
Dillingham and Wembanyama would have fed generations, but now we're getting an aging CP3. Maybe he can add some veteran experience to Wembanyama's play, but I don't see it working out. And then finally, just recently, Isaiah Harden signed to the Thunder as well. That's a 7 foot and a 7'1", all together in the same backcourt for the Thunder. Another great defensive ad, but we just got some breaking news.
We did. The infamous 0 for 10 in an elimination game. Klay Thompson to the Mavs on a 3-year deal.
I think this is a great move for Klay. I really did think he was going to go to the Lakers.
Yeah.
LeBron was calling him apparently right when the free agency window opened. But he goes to the Mavs, where I really do think they need that shooting help on the wing that he provides. Tim Hardaway, we just mentioned, didn't make a single bucket until Game 4 of the series.
Yeah.
They really did have that need that shooting help. Derek Lively is more of an inside guy in the paint. So besides Luke and Kyrie, they really had no one there besides PJ Washington. So another great ad for the Mavs, in my opinion.
Yeah, and everyone's clowning him for an 0 for 10 game, an elimination game. But he is one of the Splash Brothers. Everyone knows he's a threat from the three-point line, which is great for the Mavs.
Mm-hmm.
This will be a great asset for them.
Hopefully, this can be a nice reset for him. Probably wasn't being treated well in those final seasons with Golden State, so hopefully this can be a change just like it was for Kyrie.
Yeah. You want to take us on to the NBA draft here?
Let's go. So, the Hawks draft Zach Versace. Alex Sarr goes from a Hawk to a Washington Wizard after falling to the Wizards with the number 2 pick, like we explained before.
Yeah.
Had disinterest in the Hawks organization. I don't think Versace is a strong number 1 pick. People have been clouding this NBA draft group because of just the lack of talent in here.
Mm-hmm.
I heard an analyst describe Versace as a 3-and-D role player, which is not something you want to hear from a number 1 overall pick.
Yeah.
But then overall, I'd say the Wizards were a big winner with the number 2 pick because not only did they get Sarr, they got Bub Carrington, they got Keyshawn George, they also got Jonas Valanciunas in free agency. So overall, good haul from them.
Yeah. And just to back it up or go back for a second here, Wizards and the Montreal Canadiens, they kind of had the same kind of draft classes here. They had 2 big names fall to them, just handed to them.
Yeah.
It's just great for their organizations and their futures.
And then the Blazers draft Kling Kong, Donovan Clingan, at the number 7 pick. people are saying that this is a great pick for them. He'll be great to build with, what's his name? Scoot Henderson.
Yeah.
Yusuf Nurkic, I know, is aging. He won't do it anymore for Blazers. So DeAndre Ayton's time is over.
Yeah.
And that just kind of shows. That's unfortunate for him. They paid him a lot of money. But Clean Con goes to the Blazers. And then you got the Spurs drafting Stephon Castle, who's a great defensive ad.
Yeah.
Maybe not for offense. And then you had them trading Dillingham to the T-Wolves for Deuce Tatum draft picks. I mean, very late in the future.
I think it was 2030.
Yeah, 2030s. So
yeah, and who knows what that could be.
these guys are still in middle school, so I'm not sure if that was a great pickup for them.
And we're talking about surprises with that draft pick. What about top 10 pick surprise? Zach Edey to the Grizzlies.
We were even discussing if he was going to be drafted.
Yeah.
When the March Madness ended a couple months ago.
I mean, all he could do is get the ball and lay it up. He's pretty good from the free throw line, but he cannot shoot a three.
Yeah. To be honest, I think he was just a system player at Purdue.
Yeah.
The whole system revolved around him, and now he'll have to adjust to this different scheme in Memphis where they have Marcus Smart, they have John Morant.
Yeah.
They just have Cam Spencer they got as well, but I don't think it'll work out for him personally.
Yeah, he could be used as dunking practice for Ja. Who knows what the reason he's going to the Grizzlies actually is. But at the NBA Draft Combine, he was they were pushing out videos of him actually draining a couple threes in a row, trying to prove that he can shoot. And that's like the new way of basketball is to have your big man be able to shoot.
Yeah, and that was probably just propaganda.
Yeah.
That was maybe the only shots he probably made that whole time.
Yeah. Video stopped like really fast, actually.
And then let's go to Chicago where Bulls got Modest Buzelis. Big fan of this guy. Notorious trash talker. Actually trash talked Riza Shea, challenged him to a 1v1. Still haven't seen it, so I'm calling out Riza Shea too right now.
Yeah.
I think Modest would smoke him.
I do too. You know, the hometown hero, grew up, played at Hinsdale Central. He was actually he was hyped up as the projected #1 pick last summer.
That's right.
So I do believe this is actually a really good pick for the Bulls. I mean, if you had any chance being hyped up as #1, I think he has some good potential behind him.
From what I understand, the only reason he fell was because he didn't shoot well from the three last year.
Yeah.
Shot 22.7%.
Yeah.
But that's something that can be easily fixed with shooting mechanics. And then as well because he was just part of a team that people thought was unnecessary.
Yeah.
It was with
The
Ron
G League
Holland,
Ignite,
G League
yeah.
Ignite. People just didn't like that team, which is I don't think is a valid reason to not draft someone.
Yeah. Talking about for the future, we got the Jazz coming away with a huge haul that will change their future. They got Cody Williams, Isaiah Collier, and Kyle Filipkowski.
Yeah, Kyle Filipkowski from Duke. Crazy story around him. I don't know if you've heard it, but he, similar like to the Aaron Rodgers situation where he's kind of been detached from his family.
Yeah.
People speculate it might have been the reason why he fell so low because he was answering weird questions in the interviews with other teams. But he has a girlfriend who was 20-something years old while he was still in high school.
Yeah.
Now she's like 26. He's still like 19 or 20. And basically she's a Mormon, and she brainwashed him into just detaching himself entirely from his own family. Hasn't really spoken to them, hasn't made contact. These are all rumors, but this is what I'm hearing on Twitter. And really weird situation, and also funny how he went to Utah out of all places.
Yeah. People were actually not surprised at all that he did go to Utah. Maybe this was his one normal interview he gave just so he could end out in Utah.
Shout out Joseph Smith. Yeah.
Yeah. I do want to talk about Dalton Knecht. I think that was a great draft pick for the Lakers.
Me too. Already has one of the best nicknames in the entire
Knecht 4.
NBA. Knecht 4 after going number 4 with his jersey number. And I've liked this pick because he's probably one of the most talented players to come from this draft.
I agree.
Number 17. And also, he's going to play so well because all the pressure has now been taken off of him.
Yeah, it's all on Bronny James.
Yeah.
That they had to select with that 55th pick.
Going to a Los Angeles organization where expectations are always so high, championships are expected every year.
Yeah.
You can just ball how you want. Everyone, the media, all the coverage is going to be towards Bronny and LeBron and JJ. Knecht can just ball out.
Yeah, and Knecht was a weapon in college. I was in March Madness. I'm watching this guy. He's a bucket. He can shoot from wherever and make any kind of bucket.
Yeah. Overall, I'm just really excited for how this NBA is going to shake out this year. NHL included. We got Connor Bedard. So much promise in Chicago, all the way from Bedard to Modest to Angel Reese now to Caleb Williams. We'll be back soon here with the Bears schedule prediction, I'm sure, later on, maybe in late July or early August, as well as maybe a Olympics preview.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for that. But for now, I think that'll end it. Great show.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
Good to be back. Better than ever. So thank you for watching another episode of Bulldog Blitz.